Boris Johnson again swerved questions today about his relationship with an ex-model and businesswoman accused of trading on her closeness to the Prime Minister. Mr. Johnson twice refused to speak about allegations regarding American Jennifer Acuri as he made a pre-election visit to a hospital this morning. His abrupt handling of questions came hours after she gave her first live television interview to Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain and refused 6 times to deny an affair while he was Mayor of London. She would only confirm she told that the PM visited her East London flat around 5 times during his time in City Hall. Later, facing the cameras at Watford General Hospital, the Prime Minister was asked about her interview, replying, "I've really said all I want to say about that." He insisted he had not broken the Greater London Assembly's Code of Conduct over taxpayers' money received by her business. Labour's Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell said that regardless of the exact nature of Mr. Johnson's relationship with Ms. Acuri, it is clear that the pair were close and that he misled the public when he said there was no interest to declare. He said, "The Prime Minister is unfit for office." This morning has thrown up even more questions for Boris Johnson, which can only be answered with a full investigation into the apparent misuse of public funds. Ms. Acuri, the then mayor's technology advisor, has been at the center of a storm over her relationship with the Prime Minister, with accusations of impropriety over the thousands of pounds of public money her company received when he was Mayor of London. But today she repeatedly refused to answer questions about whether they shared an intimate relationship when Mr. Johnson was married to his then wife, Marina Wheeler. She told Piers, "Because the press have made me this objectified ex-model pole dancer, I'm really not going to answer the question." "I am not going to be putting myself in a position for you to weaponize my answer." Boris had nothing to do with my other achievements. Ms. Acuri, who was speaking exclusively to Good Morning Britain, said Mr. Johnson had never showed her any favoritism and denied newspaper reports he wrote her a letter of recommendation for a £100,000 a year tech job. Ms. Acuri said she and Mr. Johnson, who she saved on her phone as Alex the Great, bonded over their mutual love of classic literature. The entrepreneur said Mr. Johnson had visited her flat a handful of times, adding that she did not have time for the media attention surrounding him when they met in public. She added, "We tried having drinks out in public or having lunch, it just became too much of a mob show, so I said you just have to come to my office." Ms. Acuri said that her office was in her Shoreditch flat, which also featured a pole dancing pole. She said the Prime Minister had been there 5, 10, a handful of times and described him as a really good friend, adding, "It's really not anyone's business what private life we had." Ms. Acuri also said the Prime Minister asked me to show him a few things on the pole she had in her flat. Describing it as a conversation starter, she said she and Mr. Johnson always had a laugh about it. The pole stood in the living room. Yes, he saw the pole. When asked directly whether Mr. Johnson had ever used the pole, Ms. Acuri said, "I'm never going to tell you that." The former model was reportedly given £126,000 in public money and privileged access to 3 foreign trade missions led by Mr. Johnson while he was in City Hall. Last month, the Prime Minister was referred to the police complaints body to assess whether he should face a criminal investigation over his association with her. The Sunday Times has reported that the businesswoman confided to 4 friends that they had been engaged in an affair during his time as mayor. But Ms. Acuri told GMB, "Those people are not my friends." Mr. Johnson insisted last week that everything he did when promoting London overseas as mayor was done in complete conformity with the code and the rules. Over the weekend, the Sunday Times also reported that Mr. Johnson wrote a letter recommending Ms. Acuri for a job as the head of a technology quango when he was in City Hall. Leaked emails seen by the Sunday Times suggested Mr. Johnson was listed as a reference in her application for the role at Tech City. Ms. Acuri was said to have been a 27-year-old student at the time of applying for the £100,000 a year job. In recent days, Downing Street has also been forced to deny claims that Mr. Johnson squeezed the thigh of a female journalist under the table during a private lunch. Charlotte Edwards said the incident took place at the offices of The Spectator in London shortly after Mr. Johnson became the magazine's editor in 1999. Earlier this week, Ms. Acuri broke her cover and was pictured outside a beauty salon run by her friend near her home in Los Angeles. Wearing heavy makeup and a wide-brimmed black hat, she rubbished allegations Mr. Johnson had bent the rules to help her, calling it an orchestrated attack. Speaking to the Mail 11 days after the scandal emerged, she insisted, "I'm being used as collateral." All the allegations are false. As she sat next to her friend Jeannie Lauren, who runs the Beauty Society salon, Ms. Acuri added, "It's such a shame to see successful businesswomen, or just businesswomen in general, be persecuted." She added, "One of the things I've been surprised with is how much support there has been for me, despite these allegations, because women see through these attacks and they know the narrative." Friends said she had been lying low with extended family elsewhere in the US while deciding how to respond to the clamor. There are 4 inquiries into whether father of 5 Mr. Johnson broke rules by doing favors for Ms. Acuri and her tech firms. Ms. Acuri moved to California last year with British partner Matthew Hickey and their young daughter. Mr. Johnson could be forced to hand over text messages and emails he sent to the businesswoman or face prison. If the leader fails to respond to the summons, he could be handed a sentence of up to 3 months in prison. Last month, Mr. Johnson was referred to the police complaints body to assess whether he should face a criminal investigation over his association with the businesswoman. In an earlier interview to the Mirror last week, Ms. Acuri furiously denied claims that she had a sexual relationship with Mr. Johnson and branded rumors complete B. She added, "They fall in love with me in about 10 minutes because I know what to say." I make men trip over their D. When asked if Boris Johnson had contacted her since the scandal emerged, she said, "No." Can you blame him?